Welcome to today's episode of BIOQIC and the future of medical imaging. Let's dive right into one of Germany's most innovative initiatives in imaging science, BIOQIC. That stands for Biophysical Quantitative Imaging Towards Clinical Diagnosis. Not exactly a light title, but the work they're doing is nothing short of groundbreaking. So, BIOQIC was launched back in 2017 and is based in Berlin. It's backed by some major players like Charité, which, by the way, is home to Europe's largest radiology department, the Physikalische Technische Bundesanstalt, or PTB, and the Technical University of Berlin. These institutions joined forces to tackle one big issue in medical imaging. How can we move from subjective interpretations to standardized, quantitative imaging markers? Right now, in many clinical practices, medical imaging often relies on what are called qualitative markers. It's essentially like offering a really well-informed guess. Unfortunately, this approach can sometimes be inconsistent and depends heavily on the experience of the clinician. That's where BIOQIC comes in. Its mission is straightforward but ambitious: to develop quantitative tools that provide objective data from images, data that leaves little room for interpretation. Think of it like quantifying the exact stiffness of a liver instead of just saying, it kind of looks abnormal. That shift could transform medical diagnoses, making them much more precise and, well, reliable. And let's talk about how they're pulling this off. BIOQIC is a collaborative dream team model. Their funding stitches together expertise from physics, chemistry, engineering, and medicine, among other fields. These collaborations aren't just local. Their efforts ripple out globally, influencing imaging research and informing clinical practices worldwide. One standout example of this global impact is their interdisciplinary funding model. By combining academic resources with industrial partnerships, they've been able to bring together brilliant minds, professors, PhD candidates, and even clinicians, all working on solutions that can make a real difference in hospitals and diagnostic labs. So, at the heart of it all, BIOQIC's mission is about ensuring patients get the most accurate diagnoses possible by taking the guesswork out of medical imaging. And honestly, it's hard not to be impressed by what they've managed to accomplish in such a short time. So, BIOQIC organizes its research efforts into three primary areas: fluid transport, tissue mechanics, and tissue structures. And these aren't just fancy-sounding terms. They're real game changers when it comes to diagnosing complex diseases like cardiovascular conditions and cancer. Let me break them down really quickly. Fluid transport is exactly what it sounds like. Looking at how fluids move through tissue. This might mean studying how blood flows inside our vessels or how other fluids interact within key structures. For cardiovascular diseases, understanding these dynamics is critical. It's like having a traffic report for your bloodstream, showing what's flowing smoothly and where there's a jam. Next up, tissue mechanics. This area gets into how tissues in your body behave under different forces, how soft or stiff they are, how they move, and why that matters. For example, if you had a way to measure the stiffness of the heart muscle in real time, imagine the difference it could make for cardiac diagnoses. And finally, tissue structures. Think of this as a close-up look at the tiny building blocks of tissues: cells, extracellular matrices, blood vessels, all the things that work together to make tissue healthy or, in some cases, diseased. By focusing on these structures, researchers can spot subtle changes that might be early warning signs for issues like cancer or fibrosis. One concrete example that comes to mind is a fascinating PhD project. It's focused on cardiac quantitative ultrasound elastography, or UC for short. This technique uses vibrations to measure how stiff the heart is, and it does it in real time. It's portable too, which means doctors might soon be able to measure cardiac pressure accurately without having to rely on invasive tests. And on the liver front, there's another project using advanced MRI and ultrasound methods to map out everything from blood perfusion to tissue elasticity. The goal is to quantitatively stage conditions like liver fibrosis without needing a biopsy. Think about that. A completely non-invasive way to monitor liver health, which could transform care for patients with chronic liver diseases. Speaking of transformations, one huge upgrade for BIOQIC was their brand new 3T MRI scanner. This thing is state-of-the-art and exclusively dedicated to research. What's amazing about it is not only its high resolution, but also how it's shared between hospitals like Charité and other research labs. It speeds up the process of clinical translation, making it easier to test innovations on actual patients. So, we've already talked about BIOQIC's research areas and the cutting-edge tools they're utilizing. But what's equally impressive is their commitment to training and collaboration. You see, what really makes BIOQIC stand out is how they're shaping the next generation of imaging professionals through a multifaceted approach to education. Picture this: targeted seminars, interdisciplinary lab rotations, and hands-on workshops, all designed to tackle the challenges of modern imaging. What's great about this setup is that it's not just about learning in isolation. It's about crossing disciplines and learning from each other. Physicists working with clinicians, engineers teaming up with biologists. That's the kind of collaboration that sparks breakthroughs. Now, one big initiative that embodies this spirit is something they call BIOQIC Days. These are like mini festivals of knowledge, where students, researchers, and experts come together to share ideas, present findings, and brainstorm future projects. It creates this atmosphere of engagement and excitement, where everyone, no matter their background, has a seat at the table. And as if that's not enough, BIOQIC goes a step further with its mentorship programs. They're actively promoting diversity and gender equality, ensuring that underrepresented groups have the support they need to excel in the field. It's not just about building great scientists. It's about building an inclusive and innovative community. Let me share a little anecdote to drive this home. A few years back, I spoke to a researcher who'd been working on a promising imaging technique but found themselves stuck. Why? They didn't have the input of clinicians to guide the real-world application of their work. That's a classic case of what happens when interdisciplinary exposure is lacking. BIOQIC, on the other hand, bridges this gap entirely. They create an environment where these kinds of roadblocks don't stand a chance. So, as we wrap up today's episode, I think it's clear that BIOQIC is so much more than just a research training group. It's a hub where educational excellence and collaborative innovation meet to push the boundaries of what's possible in medical imaging. Because at the end of the day, this is about making a real difference in people's lives. And honestly, that's a mission worth celebrating. All right, that's all for today, folks. Thanks for tuning in to this exploration of BIOQIC and the future of medical imaging. Until next time, take care and stay curious.